You ever have one of those moments where you realize your biggest enemy in life is a woman named Brenda Cartwright, who owns more leopard print than a zoo and happens to live just 3 houses down from you? Because trust me, I never thought I'd see the day. But there it was. The day she banned my propane delivery, right before winter. That's when I decided. Some battles, you just have to fight. Even if it means watching your neighbors freeze right along with you. Let me back up for a second. I'm Isaac Valdez. I moved to this gated little slice of snowy paradise, Snowmass Village, Colorado, about a year and a half ago. Beautiful views, crisp air, the kind of place that makes your bank account hurt every month, but your heart? Yeah, it feels free. I worked remotely as a software engineer, so the peace and isolation were perfect. The only problem? I needed propane to heat my house, because the gas company stopped running lines to our section decades ago. Old neighborhood, old problems, you know how it is. There were about 20 of us in the back section, all in the same boat. Most folks didn't think twice about it, until Brenda decided to turn our HOA into her own private fiefdom. Imagine a CEO who only manages grass height and mailbox angles, but acts like she's running Apple. That's Brenda. Leopard print everything. Haircut so sharp you'd think she could open mail with it, and the kind of smile that says, "I'll ruin your week if you let me." I played along, paid my dues, kept my trash cans out of sight, because, get this, she once fined me for leaving them out for more than 12 hours. 12. She must have set her alarm to drive by at the exact moment the garbage truck left. Some people do yoga, Brenda does HOA enforcement. Anyway, everything came to a head in October, when she called an emergency HOA meeting. The whole community center stank of old coffee, the heat barely working, and Brenda was up front in her leopard blazer, tapping a microphone like she was about to announce layoffs. "There's a serious safety issue," she said. "Propane deliveries are putting our roads and our families at risk." She kept saying explosive materials like we were running a meth lab back there. I tried to stay calm, raised my hand. "Brenda, we don't have natural gas lines. We need propane. Been that way since forever." She flashed that icy smile. "Times change, Isaac. We need to modernize. I propose we ban propane deliveries inside the community. You'll have to find another solution." At that, old George, 2 doors down, crusty Vietnam vet, stood up and said, "Lady, do you know what it costs to switch to electric heat? Or run gas lines? You're talking 10, 15 grand per house. We're not all sitting on oil wells." Brenda didn't miss a beat. Safety and property values come first. And that's when I realized she didn't care. It wasn't about safety. It was about control. I pressed her. "Did the insurance company really say we're not covered? Or is this just convenient for your agenda?" Her face flushed. "I don't appreciate your tone, Isaac. I'm protecting the community." "No, you're trying to bankrupt 20 homeowners for your own preferences." Voices started rising. The meeting fell apart. And then, without everyone present, she forced a vote. Most of the yes votes came from people who wouldn't even be affected. They had gas lines already. Why would they care? I went home angry, dove into Colorado HOA laws, reading statutes till my eyes burned. I found a clause. HOAs can't pass rules that make it impossible to use your home for its intended purpose. Heating with propane wasn't just tradition, it was necessity. I sent a firm but polite letter to the board, CC'd everyone affected. "We're going to keep our deliveries, and we believe your rule is unenforceable." Thought that might be the end. Nope. 2 weeks later, certified letter from Brenda and her minions. Any future propane delivery? $500 fine. Trucks would be towed if they entered the property. I called my propane company, Rocky Mountain Propane, told Rita, the dispatcher, what was going down. She laughed. "Honey, we deal with crazy HOAs all the time. But this? That's a new one. Let me talk to our legal team." Meanwhile, I found myself a lawyer, Mark Patterson, down in Aspen. Mountain guy, gray hair, face like he'd been windburned half his life, and an office with a view worth more than my car. "This is bold and probably illegal," he said after hearing my story. "Get everything documented. Photos, letters, video. When's your next delivery?" 3 weeks, I said. "Good. Let them try something. We'll file for an injunction. The key is to make this more expensive and annoying for them than it is for you." I left his office feeling halfway better, until the next round of threatening letters started. Brenda began driving by my place daily, probably hoping to catch me with a trash can out of line. I kept everything perfect. Lawn mowed, cans hidden, not a blade out of place. November 15th, delivery day. I called Rita to confirm. We're still coming, she said. Our legal team says they can't stop us. If they try to tow us, we'll call the cops. The truck rolled up around 10:30. Right on cue, Brenda's black Mercedes screeched in behind, blocking the driveway. I stepped outside with my phone recording. Tom, the propane driver, a big guy, bushy beard, hands like shovels, climbed down and grinned. Looks like we got an audience. Brenda stormed up, waving her phone. Propane deliveries are banned. You need to leave. Tom just shrugged. Ma'am, I have a contract to fulfill. If you have an issue, call the police. So she did, and I kept the camera rolling because I knew this was gold. 15 minutes later, a sheriff's deputy showed up. Young guy, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Brenda launched into her tirade about trespassing, dangerous trucks, and the community's safety. Tom explained, calm as ever. I'm delivering fuel to a resident who's paid for it. This is his property. The deputy scratched his head. Ma'am, this is a civil dispute, not a criminal one. You can't call 911 for HOA stuff. You're actually blocking his vehicle, and that's a problem. Move your car. You should have seen Brenda's face. She backed up, still glaring at me, while Tom finished filling my tank. I thanked him, signed the slip, and sent the video to my lawyer, Mark. He called back cackling. Perfect. We'll use this in court. But Brenda wasn't done. 3 days later, another fine, this time with a lien threat. Legal action to force the sale of my house. It was all-out war. Mark filed an injunction. The court scheduled a hearing. Meanwhile, Colorado winter rolled in. Heavy snow, biting cold. Brenda doubled down, rallying support for her propane ban. Another HOA meeting. This one a circus. George stood up, nearly shouting. You want to bankrupt me because you don't like trucks? I fought in a war for this country. I'll be damned if I freeze because of you. Patricia, single mom next door, pleaded, this fine will ruin me. Brenda? Unmoved. If you can't afford to live here under our standards, maybe this isn't the community for you. The room went silent. Even her supporters squirmed. The day of the hearing, snow falling thick outside, I walked into the courthouse with Mark and a folder full of evidence, photos, videos, copies of every nasty letter, and a police report from Officer Martin. Brenda's lawyer, Richard, looked slick enough to sell luxury condos to millionaires, but Judge Clean, sharp, old school, no nonsense, wasn't impressed. She asked, what alternative heating solutions did the HOA offer? Richard mumbled something about electric conversion, $15,000 to $30,000 a house. So you're demanding $500,000 in upgrades, in the middle of winter? She shook her head. I'm issuing an injunction. The propane ban is unenforceable pending further hearing. Remove the lien, mediate, and find a reasonable solution. It wasn't a total win, but it was enough to get Brenda off my back for a bit. Winter didn't care about legal battles, though. By December, the snow was relentless. I had my tank topped off, just in case. On December 18th, the blizzard hit, a real Colorado monster. By the second day, power lines snapped, the front section started losing natural gas pressure, and the temperature plunged below zero. George called. Patricia says the front's freezing. Brenda called her, begging for help. Can you believe that? I should have felt smug, but I was mostly worried. People were freezing. Brenda called me next, voice trembling. Isaac, do you have spare propane heaters? I took a breath. Brenda, you banned propane deliveries. If you hadn't, folks could have had backup systems. Are you really going to lecture me? People are in danger. I have one small heater. That's it. I need my propane for heat and the generator. I called around. Most folks said the same, help if they could, but no one was exactly eager to risk their own families for Brenda. By day 4, the county sent an emergency crews, set up warming stations, and got the most vulnerable people out. Brenda was holed up in someone else's house, shivering, blaming everyone but herself on the HOA social page. It took days for gas service to come back, and when it did, the neighborhood mood had shifted. People were furious. Brenda called another HOA meeting, still clinging to her power. I propose we sue the gas company, she declared, ignoring the shouts from the crowd. George called out, how about you drop the propane ban? The room erupted. Someone moved to recall Brenda as president. Turns out, a woman named Karen had already collected signatures. The recall vote was scheduled. A week later, Brenda was out. Dennis, usually her yes man, became interim president and immediately ended the propane ban. Even talked about subsidizing new installations. My lawyer fees got reimbursed. Rocky Mountain Propane started getting calls from all over the neighborhood. Life settled down. Except for the occasional death glare from Brenda, who'd become a social pariah. And then, plot twist, Officer Martin knocked on my door in March. Mr. Valdez, Brenda Cartwright's been arrested. Embezzled over 50 grand from the HOA. Suddenly, her propane crusade made perfect sense. She needed a distraction while she lined her own pockets. She got 3 years. Her house sold off to pay restitution, and the new neighbors, a young couple with a golden retriever, asked, "We heard something about drama and propane." I just laughed and said, "It's all resolved now. Welcome to the neighborhood." The next winter, no drama, no fines, no threats. The new HOA president, Susan, brought in real transparency and actual community spirit. People paid attention, asked questions, and the rules started making sense. Even lawmakers in Denver started talking about new laws to keep HOAs from banning essential services. I even spoke at a conference, me, who hates public speaking, telling our story. People came up after, grateful, vowing not to repeat our mistakes. Looking back, I never wanted any of this. Just wanted to heat my house and enjoy the view. But I learned, sometimes you've got to fight back. You stand up to bullies, even if it's messy and expensive, even if it means being the troublemaker for a while. Because if you don't, nothing changes. We didn't just win propane deliveries. We took back our community from a petty tyrant. We learned to work together, even when it was hard, and to help each other, even if grudges ran deep. When the blizzard hit, people with every reason to turn away chose to help anyway. That, more than any court win, was the victory I'm proudest of. Now, as another winter approaches and my propane tank sits full and ready, I look at the mountains and feel a weird sense of peace. The HOA runs smoothly. Neighbors wave. Tom from Rocky Mountain Propane jokes with me about football while he fills the tank. Brenda is long gone, her story a cautionary tale. Funny thing is, the story became local legend. Folks still ask for the HOA propane guy in the grocery store. I don't mind. I'd rather be known for standing up for something right than for going along with something wrong. So, let me ask you, where do you draw the line between rules and reason? Have you ever had to fight for what's right in your own community? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk justice, common sense, and maybe share a few HOA horror stories while we're at it. Because if there's one thing I know now, it's that the quiet, ordinary fight for your home and your neighbors, that's where real justice starts.